إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. All praise is due to Allah. We praise Him, we beseech Him, and we seek refuge in Allah from the evil of ourselves. Whomsoever Allah guides, then none can misguide him. Whomsoever Allah, the glorified and the exalted, misguides, then none can guide them aright. I bear witness and I publicly testify that none has the right to be worshipped in truth but Allah, and that Muhammad ibn Abdullah is his slave and his messenger to proceed. I would like to thank our brothers and sisters of the administration and management committee of the masjid for inviting me back to begin a new series of lectures. These new series of lectures are entitled Atheism, the New Religion. And I want to be honest that I would not have been prepared for this topic had it not been for me being blessed by attending a one-week session with our brothers of IERA to actually go through in detail about atheism, about the theory of evolution and the philosophy of science. So I'm here today with Billahi Tawfiq, first and foremost by the permission of Allah, and then by attending the course ready and able. Brothers and sisters, there are some of us sitting here asking the question, why is this brother talking about atheism? What does atheism have to do with our community? They say to themselves, well, hey, atheism is an ideology which we as Muslims do not subscribe to, and there's no harm. Before I actually discuss why atheism, I would like to read something to you. One, that according to contemporary statistics, the third largest belief system or religion is atheism. The first, Christianity; the second, Islam; the third, Hinduism; and the fourth is atheism. In the last 20 years, we have had a significant rise in people, especially academics, who, Jazakallah khair, openly call themselves atheists. In fact, from the 1960s, we have had a large number of people in the Muslim world, where? In the Muslim world, who call themselves atheists. We have heard of this new trend in Bangladesh, where people are openly saying they are atheists. We've heard of this trend in Egypt, where people are openly claiming to be atheists. Even in the Arabian Peninsula, we are finding people coming out and saying they are atheists. So atheism, my brothers and sisters and respected elders, is not something which is just confined to the West. Atheism, my brothers and sisters, is a global trend which we ignore at our peril. Another important thing, my brothers and sisters, Sheikh, it's okay. Another important thing, my brothers and sisters, is that many of our young people, our boys and girls, when they go to university, within the first week of university, they feel that they have missed the memo. Meaning, in the workplace, when something is to be done, the boss, he or she will send out a memo to do this or not to do that. So on that day, you find people either have done it or haven't done it. If you've missed the memo, you didn't do it because you didn't get the memo, or you did other than it because you didn't get the memo. This is our young people. Our young people, when they go to universities, are two groups. One group who are religious and maintain their deen. Another group are people who may be religious or not religious, but they are affected by the environment. So they go to university and they see those people around them, all their professors, all their lecturers are atheists, openly proclaiming in the lessons and the lectures, God doesn't exist. Wa'iyadhu billah. They can be talking about physics, God doesn't exist. They can be talking about chemistry, God doesn't exist. They can be talking about architecture, the teacher will say in class, oh, God doesn't exist. I watched this gentleman who is one of the foremost people in what we call open source software, basically free software for computers. And in it he said, well, that question is irrelevant because God doesn't exist. Look at that. In software, God doesn't exist. So your son, your daughter, your niece, your nephew, yourself, you're sitting there in university or college and you hear God doesn't exist. Even in the secondary schools in our country, and this is a side point and a very important point, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland is not an atheist country. This is what many people forget. This country is a quote-unquote Christian country, which is secular, meaning there's a separation of state and religion. But the dominant religion in this country is Christianity. And we can see this on the television. When a young baby dies and they invite their parents to come on television and the parent starts talking about Tommy who died, they say, yeah, Tommy, he's dead now, he's passed away, he's up in heaven with his gran. Do you ever hear on television when they speak about dead babies or grandparents or parents who are dead, they speak of them as if they just died and that was it, they stopped functioning? No. People in this country, they still believe in God. And that is why now you're finding the last chance move to establish atheism. Your sons and daughters, they go to secondary school. Non-denomination means it has nothing to do with religion. And every child in these schools takes religious education. In religious education, don't you study humanism? Don't you study about atheism? Here's religious education. Education about religion. Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Hinduism, Sikhism, Buddhism. It's supposed to be about religion. But now even in so-called RE, kids are going into school and they're learning about atheism. And atheism, by the way, is marketed as if it's cool. To be atheist is to be cool. And we see this replicated in the Muslim world. If you go to the top universities in the Muslim world, you see people sitting there with their legs folded, yah all the time, and saying they're atheists. Why is that? You go to learn engineering, you come out an atheist. You go to learn medicine, you come out an atheist. You go to learn English language or literature, you come out as an atheist. Why? Because brothers and sisters, while the atheists are awake, looking around, we Muslims are asleep. We are fast asleep. We are like Gulliver. Have you heard of Gulliver's Travels? Gulliver was a normal man who came across an island. And he fell asleep on this island, and when he woke up, he found himself tied down. And the people of this island were tiny little people. Tiny small people. And in that land he was a giant. This is the Muslims. We are giants, but we are sleeping. And in our sleep we are ineffective. Our kids go to school and learn about every sexuality except for heterosexuality. You don't know. Your kids go to school and learn every single conception of the family is okay, except for the conception of the family that they live in. You don't know. Our kids are engaged, brothers and sisters, in low intensity warfare. There's two types of warfare. Warfare where arms are seen, bullets are fired, bombs explode. Then low intensity warfare, you don't see soldiers. You don't hear explosions. But know that someone is trying to take over that land. Guerrilla warfare, low intensity warfare. So the schools have become killing fields. And it's important when our children come home, brothers and sisters, we debrief them. We sit with them and ask, we find out, what did you learn at school? There was a time when reproduction was only taught where? In biology. Now reproduction is taught all over the curriculum. Why? Why does a 10-year-old have to know about conjugal relations? Why does a 6-year-old have to understand where he or she came from? Why does a 4-year-old in the nursery have to understand these things? Put aside the fact that it should be the prerogative of the parents to teach children about sexuality, unless you live in a communist state. Under fascism, the state determines and dictates what everybody should or shouldn't know. You have no option or choice. We are sleepwalking into fascism, brothers and sisters, where everything your children are told and should be and think is determined by the state. It is the state that tells your children how to be and how not to be. This is fascism, brothers and sisters. Where does the individual come in? We hear people talk about libertarianism. That is, you should be free to express and live your life. This is true unless you are Muslim. When you are Muslim, X. No. You can't live your life. So as we see today with the sun being out, if the woman wants to go in a skimpy top and cut down jeans, that's okay. But won't be tied if she wears a jilbab or hijab. Wow. She's automatically oppressed. As if it wasn't men who designed all these different types of fashion. But my point, walaikum salam. Many of our young children, brothers and sisters, are in a struggle to maintain their Islamic identity. On the one hand, you are told you have liberty, freedom to express yourself, to believe in a religion or not to be in a religion. And on the other hand, schools and colleges and universities enforce psychologically and emotionally on our children atheism. Why is it you can have a school with 99.9% Muslims and Islam doesn't feature in the curriculum? The same way when I was growing up, I went to a school with 99.9% black people. All of us were from the Caribbean or Africa. But we never saw ourselves in the curriculum, nowhere. They never once told us anything. And now it is even worse. Who could tell me why it's worse today? Huh? Excellent. Today they have so-called Black History Month. And having Black History Month is worse than not having Black History Month. And you may be looking at me like, what's this guy talking about? I went to a Muslim school during Black History Month. Muslim school funded by the state. Outside the year 6 class was a collage of different pictures. They had Martin Luther King. They had Michael Jackson. Imagine Michael Jackson in Black History Month. Michael Jackson hasn't been black since Thriller. What's he doing on the wall? They had Lionel Richie. Well, Lionel Richie stopped being black when he left the Commodores. And while we have a huge amount of respect for Martin Luther King, where was Malcolm X? No Malcolm X. We know why there was no Malcolm X. Because when you put Malcolm X on the wall for young people and say this is somebody you should follow and emulate, you develop men and you develop women. You don't develop confused people. You develop men and you develop women who are proud to identify as two things. One, that they are from Africa, and two, that they are Muslim. In 1960s, Malcolm X was openly saying, I'm a Sunni Muslim. You can't find nobody in the West who said they were a Sunni Muslim. Name me somebody. If you could tell me somebody in 1963 who openly said he was a Sunni Muslim, I'll give £20 to the Masjid charity today. Let's go. Malcolm X said, my religion is Islam. And then he went on to talk about the 5 pillars of Islam. Another £20. Tell me who in 1963 was doing what Malcolm X was doing. I'll give another £20. Let's go. And this is why they don't want Malcolm X. Your kid goes, that's a Muslim school. What about the state school? In Black History Month, they should call it Black Slavery Month. Because that's all they teach our children. As a people, we have thousands of years of history. When people in Europe were in caves. When people in Europe, when they saw fire, they jumped off the cliff. The concept of rare food stems from a culture that is used to eating raw food. Where were the pyramids? In Africa. Where was civilization? In Africa. This is our legacy. Do they connect our young children with Africa? No. They say to our young children, Tony, Levon, you people were slaves. That's the starting point. No wonder our children want nothing to do with Africa. And so Black History Month isn't Black History Month. Black History Month is Black Slavery Month, where we celebrate 1 month of black underachievement. Why do I say underachievement? We have 3,000 years, they ignore that and bring to us Michael Jackson. They bring to us Beyonce, subhanallah. Is it best that black people have done Beyonce? We have done nothing else but Beyonce and Jay-Z and Kanye West. They're the best we've done. And some people are asking me why. I say Kanye West. I said Kanye West because he said slavery is a choice. Kanye West is either mad or deluded with money because he supports Donald Trump. And you know how it was back in the day, you have the house nigger and the field nigger. House nigger or negro is close to massa. When massa drinks, drops of water land on the floor and he can drink. When massa eats, crumbs of the food on the floor, he can eat. But the vast majority of our ancestors were field negroes, the ones who suffered. And we have them today, the music industry is full of them. Coons and buffoons, who, for a nice house, for a nice car, for accolade, such as the MTV award, they sell their people short. And so my point, our kids are going to schools where they have a number of agendas and none of them in their favor. And so we're seeing our young people becoming atheists. Now we'll define atheism, and now I'm going to say why. One of the reasons we have atheism, especially in the Muslim world, let me find the vocabulary. Because people are, that's the word, they have an inferiority complex. Especially people who are part of the elite. Those people who want to be successful. They look at the West, they look at Buana, and they say, yes, that's the way to go. Not content in bleaching their skin, they want to bleach their minds. It's one thing to bleach your skin and damage your skin. It's something else to bleach their minds. Many of the people in the Muslim world who are black and brown see themselves as part of an equation with black or brown at the bottom of the fraction and Buana at the top. And so they have an inferiority complex. When they look at the West, they seem to have amnesia. The Moors, those Arabized Africans who came in the 7th century to Europe and founded a civilization, Islamic civilization, where everyone could wash and have a bath. At the same time, the most cleanest woman in Europe was Queen Elizabeth, and it is said she had a bath once a year. At the same time, when we had sewage, all of those who went to school in the UK, we know what happened. Up until maybe 100 years ago in London, sewage was thrown out of the window into the streets. Number one and number two in the street. The streets of London, the city of London, you had to walk around with a peg on your nose because it stunk. At the same time, look at our civilization. So we have nothing to feel inferior about. What do we have to feel inferior about? But we have our elite who believe in order to move on or to get on, you have to think and be like Buana. Also, brothers and sisters, with atheism, and you see this especially our teenagers in this society, atheism comes with some perks. You know, if you work for a company, they give you a car, company car, which you can drive anytime you want, fill up the petrol, nobody asks you any question, it's a perk, am I right? Many of our young people, they believe, if I become atheist, there is a number of advantages. One of the advantages is atheism does away with halal and haram. When you're atheist, is it haram? Is it haram? No haram. When you're a Muslim, can you walk into McDonald's and ask for a tasty sandwich with double bacon and cheese? Can you? No. Can you walk into a restaurant and say, yeah, I'll have the quiche and can I have a glass of red wine? Can you? Yes or no? No. Haram. But when you're atheist, what can you do? You have a tasty burger, double bacon, no problem. Walk into the restaurant, have a pork chop, 3 veg, and a glass of white wine. No problem. There's no halal haram. Even relationships. Our children grow up in an environment that tells them that they should have relationships from a very young age. Imagine. Look at the scenario. If a 12-year-old girl goes into hospital and says that she is pregnant from her boyfriend, what would happen? What would happen? Nothing would happen. At most, they will inquire who, how, when, and why. 15-year-old boyfriend, 16-year-old boyfriend, 17-year-old boyfriend, nothing will happen. Flip the script. If she is married, and I'm not encouraging 12-year-olds to get married, but showing you, sometimes we learn from looking at the opposites. If she came in and said, I'm married, what would happen? Social workers, the police, the ambulance service, the fire service, everybody would be there. This is our society. If a man says, I want to have 4 wives, 1, 2, 3, 4, what happens? Goes to work and says, you know, I have 4 wives. Everybody will look at him as if he is a snake's egg that is hatching, like he's a devil. Am I right? Like he's shaitan in the flesh. Same person, he goes to work and says, yeah man, I got 4 side chicks. What would happen? Everybody in the office would be spudding him. Even Maisie, the department secretary, would spud him as well. This is our upside down, morally upside down society. How did we get here? How? In the 1950s, it was a disgraceful thing to have a baby out of wedlock. Where today is normal. Your 6-year-old girl comes and says, I'm pregnant from my boyfriend. What does anybody say? They don't say nothing, just get on with it. How did we get here in the first place? We got here, my respected brothers and sisters, because of atheism. Because with atheism, is there any morality? Is there? Anything goes. Look at Germany. In Germany, it's legal to marry an animal. Do you know that? Legal to marry an animal. They have brothels. In Holland, they have brothels with women. In Germany, they have brothels with animals. Spend the night with a dog. And don't believe me. I want you to go check Google and come back next week and say, Talib, you're a liar. I wish I was lying. This is atheism. Because how can I say you are morally wrong for marrying a dog? If I marry a woman, how can I say you're wrong if there are no morals? Why are there no morals? There's no God. Where do we get our morals from, even in this society today? It comes from religion. It comes from where? Religion. The remnants of Islam that was in Christianity. The remnants which their ruhban and their rabbis and their priests erased and changed. But there are remnants which still govern the society. But if there's no God, how can you have morality? And we're going to discuss these in detail. All of these arguments, wabillahi tawfiq, we're going to look at them one by one in detail over the next coming weeks. And so, my respected brothers and sisters, atheism is attractive for those people who are weak and have low morals, like our young people. Remember, the rap star Drake, he was accused of being Islamophobic to a Muslim girl in one of his concerts. Who remembers that? Raise their hand. Remember that? Did you hear of it? The rapper Drake, a Muslim girl was in his concert. So what happened? They accused him of calling her out. And I say, thank you, Mr. Drake. Thank you. Why? What are you doing in a concert with a hijab on in the first place? Where is your shame? None of the Muslims ever said, Subhanallah. What was she doing there? She must have had something for him to identify her. There are thousands of white girls, thousands of Asian girls, thousands of black girls. How would he know she's Muslim? By looking at her skin color? No. By looking at her hair texture? No. By looking at her earrings? No. And it can't be looking at her clothes because all of them are semi-naked. But she must have had something distinctive. And what happens? Everybody diss Drake. And I say, thank you, Mr. Drake. Because what is she doing there in the first place? But here comes my point why I brought this example. You have from atheism, no one can judge me. Where does it come from? You can't judge me. If I wear a thobe, I'll go across the road to the pub, have a pipe, get drunk, you can't judge me. If I want to walk down the road in some shorts, a string t-shirt and pink hair wig on and lipstick, no one can judge me. Atheism. You can't judge me. Why? Because there is no moral standard. If there is a moral standard, how can you judge me? If I was to go to Tanzania now, and I started walking around, for example, in just a boxer shorts and a vest and a pink wig on, our brothers and sisters in Tanzania will say, hey, what you doing? In our country you don't do that. Am I right? Why? Because it's a moral standard from the culture, isn't it? But if there's no moral standard, you can't judge people according to culture. Every man has his own island, as the evil Aleister Crowley said. Look at this. Aleister Crowley, when he was alive in the beginning of the 19th century, they called him the most evil man alive. I can't say in the masjid what Aleister Crowley did. I can't tell you the things that Aleister Crowley did. The blasphemy of Aleister Crowley. There is nothing on this planet that Aleister Crowley did not perform conjugal relationships with in the name of magic. That's Aleister Crowley for you. Aleister Crowley said, each person is like a star in their own orbit. Look at that. Isn't this what people believe today? Every person is an individual, doing their thing. I do my thing, you do your thing. We have the expression, I'm doing me, isn't it? What does it mean? I'm doing what I think is right, you don't judge me. So if there is no moral standard, how can you judge me? How? I can do whatever I want. But if there is a moral standard, all of us are then obliged to follow that standard. Isn't it? So here comes atheism. Says there's no God. If there's no God, where does your morals come from? Talk to me, people. Where do your morals come from? Where? If there's no God. Where? Huh? Speak out, Chef. You just make them up as you go along. Do you feel that we live in a society today where people just making up as they go along? Do you feel that way? You go to school one day, people are doing one thing. You come the next day, everything has changed. Don't you feel that? One day something comes in, the next day something comes out. One day something is bad, the next day something is good. One day you hear one type of marriage, the next day you hear another type of marriage. Don't be surprised, brothers and sisters, that you go to sleep and one day you hear, okay, law has changed. If you want to marry an animal, you can marry an animal. Then you have on Facebook and Instagram, the first Muslim to marry an animal. Haven't you seen that? The first this, the first that, the first this country, the first Muslim country, or the first person from this ethnic group. Haven't you seen that on Instagram, on all the media? Brothers and sisters, it's not me, it's not you who make our moral standard. It comes from Allah. Allah has said to us in the Quran and the Sunnah that marriage is between a man and a woman. It's not for me and you to negotiate. If you want to negotiate, negotiate with Allah. This is a marriage. Any other construction of marriage is invalid. Not what I think. It's according to Islamic law. So, my respected brothers and sisters, with atheism comes what, my respected brothers and sisters? With atheism comes the depletion of morals. In respect to the history of atheism, brothers and sisters, that atheism started as a movement that was linked to another movement called secularism. It's hard to imagine, it is hard to imagine the difference, but there is a significant difference. Secularism is the belief that church and the government should be separate. So the government should not follow religion, a particular religion or religious laws. Atheism, but somebody could be secular and at the same time believe in a religion. The person to say, like in India, I'm Muslim, or I'm Buddhist, or I'm Hindu, but I don't believe that the state laws should be, for example, based upon the Hindu religion. So if you imagine a country like India of 1 billion people, where there's over 600 million Muslims, if Hinduism was the state religion in respect to law, then Muslims would be forced to follow Hindu laws. But alhamdulillah, India is a secular country where religion doesn't form part of the laws. As a side note, we as Muslims should rule by what Allah has revealed. In our countries, the hukum, the law should be Allah's law. And I'm not advocating the separation of the hukum of Allah from the state, no. I'm not making an analysis but a description here. But we have this movement starting in the 1600s in respect to excesses of the Christian church. The Christian church did not allow science. Did we allow science? Yes, not only did we allow science, we founded science. Muslims founded science. Also, the Christian church, before the 1600s, and still today, were property owners. Amongst the largest property owners in the UK is the church. A number of the housing associations are church owned. Genesis, have you heard of Genesis before? Housing association? Church! Lots of the housing associations are owned by the church because they were large landlords. They had large tracts of land given to them. The church itself stifled intellectual pursuits. The discussion of issues, no, you couldn't discuss things. So Galileo Galilei, his ideas about the world orbiting the sun almost cost him his life. Look at this, brothers and sisters. We Muslims, for example, you may have two Muslims. One that says that the earth is a sphere. It's a 3D spherical shape. Another Muslim will say that the earth is flat. Do these two Muslims fight each other? Do we say those people who believe that the earth is flat should be imprisoned? No. Over these scientific details, Muslims never ever imprison people. We accept that there's ikhtilaf, difference of opinion, we keep it moving. However, Galileo Galilei was given two choices. Repent or die for being an apostate. So thought, technology was stifled by the church. So these intellectuals rebelled. The momentum developed and rebelled until we reach around the 1600s and 1700s, where one particular ideology made atheism palatable. Can someone tell me what ideology was that? Sorry? Excellent. Darwinian evolution. Darwinian evolution. Now we should get mixed up between evolution and Darwinian evolution. Evolution means change. It just means change. And of course there will be change. If everybody in Tanzania married a white woman, what would happen? There'd be evolutionary change, where most of the population will become lighter in skin color, isn't it? Or, as we see in this country here with Chileman. Chileman look like you brothers. Yes? And over time and mixing, the population changed. We have influx of people from Denmark and these countries. Population changes, isn't it? Yes? However, Darwin evolution doesn't propose that. It proposes something else. which we will either talk in this series about atheism, or we shall give Darwin theory a series of itself. But with Darwin comes the idea that there is no God. That somehow, and this is, who's heard of Richard Dawkins before? Raise your hands if you heard of Richard Dawkins. Raise your hands, nothing to be ashamed of. Okay. Richard Dawkins is one of the leading advocates of atheism today. Richard Dawkins will say, look, atheism, so he says science. He talks about science. He says we should not believe in religion, we should believe in science. He says science is obvious as seeing the sun or the moon. First of all, brothers and sisters, seeing the sun or the moon is not scientific. It's an observation. There is nothing scientific about seeing the sun or the moon. Then what is science? Science is you have an observation, you see something, and then from that you come to a theoretical conclusion. Science can be wrong, science can be wrong, it can be correct. Science can be even wrong and still help us, like Newtonian physics. Up until recently, the theories of Newton were considered to be valid science, and everybody followed them. And it made predictions. You could use it to predict. You could say, using Newtonian physics, the sun is here, and at this hour, this minute, this day, next year, it will come back here. However, today, the theories of Sir Isaac Newton have been thrown out. So they were incorrect and they worked. And many of us, when we hear people say, this is scientific fact, we believe it, am I right? But what's a scientific fact? Is there a scientific fact? No. Because science is the best explanation for something at our present moment. Now, I remember, I'll give you a very good example. I was invited to a university to give a lecture about Islam and science. And then I knew nothing about Islam and science. Nothing. I went to the lecture, I sat down, a hall with maybe 200-300 people, and I said to the people, listen, I want to be honest. I know absolutely nothing about Islam and science. The head of the Islamic Society looked at me like, what is this guy doing here? And everybody started looking at each other. What's this guy going to talk about? I said, I have only one question to ask. One simple question to ask. Related to science. And I'm going to ask this question today. Who in this masjid has seen an atom? Raise your hands. Nobody? Surprise, surprise. I'll ask another question then. Who in this masjid knows somebody who has seen an atom? Raise your hand. What's happening today happened on that day. And here comes the question. In fact, I made a mistake. I said, who here believes in atoms? That's what I did first. Who here believes in atoms? And everybody, the Muslims were like, this is a trick question. I said, you can raise your hands, no problem. So everybody raised their hands. And then I asked the sequence of questions. And I said, look at this. Look at you people, educated people, doing degrees, masters and PhDs. It was a university. You all here believe in something you've never seen and nobody else has seen. But when I say I believe in God, you say, it's faith. I have faith and you have sure knowledge? No. It's based upon faith you believe in the atoms. How do you know? Maybe it's not an atom, but a small little gingerbread man who moves around. Now you may laugh. It's funny, isn't it? Why isn't that not a scientific theory? Why can't I say that's scientific? According to the philosophy of science, I can say that. It's a valid theory. The Big Bang Theory, they used to believe before, based upon their ideology, that somehow the earth just somehow was always here, eternal. Then a man by the name of Hubble, you know the Hubble telescope, looking at the stars and the moon, he realized something. Looking at the gamma rays, that's the light. He realized something. He realized that the rays pointed to the fact that the whole universe had a beginning. Now, for scientists, this was almost a revolution, because this is what Christians believe in the Bible. However, the more research they did, and what's the name of that guy? What's the name? Dr. Stephen Hawkins, is it the guy who died recently? Hawkins. His whole life was dedicated to the disbelief in God and that somehow the planet was eternal, which he failed to prove. He died failing to prove it. Even Hubble wrote to Einstein. People say that Einstein didn't believe in God. That's a lie. Einstein believed in God. Maybe he didn't follow a particular religion, even though ethnically he was Jewish. But brothers and sisters, we have to be careful. So Dr. Dawkins will say to you, science is obvious, just like looking at the moon. Looking at the moon is an observation, and science is something totally different. Even they will say to you, and I'm going to go into detail about this later, science has proved that God doesn't exist. Is that true?
Actually, it's the opposite.
Why is it science hasn't proved that God doesn't exist? There's two reasons why. You're getting very close to it. Well done. Anybody else? First of all, science is not about supernatural things you can't see. It's about what's here on this planet we can see. So the object of science has never ever been to find if God exists or doesn't exist. Scientists don't sit down and say, right, today I'm going to disprove that God exists. Because here comes the second reason. What does an experiment to disprove God existing look like? What does it look like? What type of experiment are you going to construct? A laboratory the size of France to try to discover if God exists or doesn't exist? No. Scientists understand they can't answer that question. Even Dr. Dawkins, ask him, do you believe in evolution? Yes. Do you believe that we come from one cell that made many cells that made different animals? He will say yes. Ask him, how did life begin? How did life begin? That's a valid question, isn't it? If you believe God doesn't exist and somehow through random processes we came into existence, how did life begin? Wallahi, not a single scientist on this planet can tell you how life began. They even did experiments. They said life began in some mud and some slush. A lightning bolt hit it and a cell produced. They did an experiment like that. You know what happened? You know what happened? Just like those people who bet today that Sweden will win the match, they flopped. They flopped. It's so bad they've given up all these type of experiments just to find out how life began. Look at that. Look at that. So I say, brothers and sisters, that in response to the excesses of the Christian church, atheism started to gain momentum with Charles Darwin, and those people around Darwin came the theory that they needed to say God doesn't exist. Why? Because we came into existence according to their theory without God. And from there it is gained much momentum, such that one of the students of atheism, a man by the name of Huxley, an atheist, a militant atheist as well, he became the first head of UNESCO, the United Nations Education and Science Organization. And he took it upon himself to try and spread atheism around the world. To spread in universities atheism, like in school. If you do science in school, at least one page in the book is dedicated to the theory of evolution. Am I right? In school, You learn the theory of evolution. And they call it a theory because they recognize, even Dawkins himself recognizes, that it may change. We have scientists today who say evolution doesn't work, which it doesn't. It doesn't work. But my point, that the atheists have positioned themselves in universities and colleges such that if you teach anything besides evolution or atheism, you can lose your job. There is a documentary out there where professors, not like me, professors, guys who spent their dedicated life to science, technology, but because they questioned the theory of evolution, they lost their jobs, their positions, their respect, ended up on the dole, just for one thing. Because the establishment, the scientific establishment, wants to maintain what? The ideology of atheism. And so, we find, my respected brothers and sisters, in respect to atheism, three types of people. Three types of people. The first type of person is a veiled agnostic. Agnosticism is the belief that we can't prove God exists, nor can we disprove God. Question: Charles Darwin, was he an atheist or not an atheist? Huh? He wasn't an atheist. Some letters indicate he was a Christian. Some letters indicate that he was an agnostic. Some letters indicate that he believed in God, though he didn't follow religion. Look at that. But you go to school, your science teacher told you that Darwin was an atheist. Am I right? Or led you to believe that the founder of the theory of evolution was an atheist, didn't believe in God, which isn't true. Which isn't true. So we have some people who are veil agnostic, they are not convinced that there is a God. However, they don't want to come out into the public and to admit there is a God. They want to come out into the public and admit there is a God. So they skirt between two positions. Then you have the thoroughbred atheist. That person who doesn't believe in God. This could be because he or she grew up in an atheist family where they didn't believe in God. Or this could be like many Muslims, they go to university and they ask their friends, Tony, Sarah, do you believe in God? Believe in God? Are you crazy? God doesn't exist. Wa'adhu billah. Now, our beloved Prophet told us ﷺ that the person is upon the religion of who? Best friend. So be careful whom you take as a best friend. If your best friend's an atheist, what you gonna be? Huh? Atheist. How they're smoking weed and drinking Hennessy and you're going to say astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. Does that work? Maybe in the movies it works, or in Anashid it works. It doesn't work in real life. Yeah? You see them Muslim happy feeling movies, the little clips on YouTube, everything ends up happy. Happy Islam. Yeah, it works. Or those Anashid where somebody was a bad person and they just came back to Allah. It is possible, but highly unlikely. Yeah, it works. But remember, brothers and sisters, the person could be corrupted. Your fitrah, which we'll talk about later, could become corrupted. If you're a good person, around you are bad people, what you gonna be? The rapper Tupac Shakur, he said, how are you gonna be an angel and around you are devils? That's Tupac Shakur. He's a rapper. How is that possible? Imagine You're in the student digs, the place where all the students are. You share a bedroom with somebody. Yeah, there's a room, you have a bed, they have a bed. Your flatmate, your roommate invites some friends around, 4 of them. They sit there, plastic cups, drinking whiskey, smoking the evil weed. Just you sitting there, imagine. I know somebody who went to carnival, they never smoked drugs. But just by being in carnival and engulfed by the smoke, their head started to spin. Did you get it? They didn't smoke, never smoked. But they were there and everybody around them is smoking drugs. What's going to happen? Somehow you're not going to be affected. Of course you're going to be affected. So you're sitting there in your bed with your tablet, reading your Quran, while your roommate with his or her friends drinking and smoking. How many of us believe that we will survive that ordeal? How many people that will say astaghfirullah and walk out, and that is it? MashaAllah. Alhamdulillah. I think the vast majority of us weak humans will succumb when they say, go on man, just have a little cup, just look, trust me. A little bit is not going to destroy your Islam. Look how shaitan works. Don't say leave Islam, a little bit is not going to affect you. Come on. Even the Hanafis say you can drink a bit. Look at that. See how shaitan works? They bring you an opinion, right or wrong. And there you go. You start drinking the fire water. That's what the Native Americans call it. And after little by little, you start to feel happy. Just like the song Happy. You've never smoked before, they hand you this thing. You puff and you start coughing. And all of a sudden, this phenomena, you feel euphoric goes all over you, and you've gone. Iman out your mouth and down the hallway. You see it? And these type of friends, because they have no morals, they don't believe in God, so everything goes. This is the die-hard believing atheists. We also have something called misatheism, which is a relatively new term. For those people who hate God. Have you gone to work and find people, when you talk about God, they just hate God? And you ask yourself, what did God do to you? Many of those people have psycho-emotional issues. You know, young Muslims, if you say, right, you've been naughty, I'm taking your tablet, taking the PlayStation, taking the laptop, taking the computer, oh, and yes, by the way, I'm taking your phone. What do? They start raging, and some of them will start blaming the religion. They blame Islam, they blame Allah, astaghfirullah. And they say, right, I ain't praying today. No tablet, no computer, I ain't making salah today, that's it. Okay? They somehow believe that it's because of religion they're in the predicament they are in. When it's their choice. Who told you to disobey your parents in the first place? For you to be punished. No, it's your parents' fault that you are bad. Look at that. Your parents are bad because you are bad. How do you make that equation? It's like saying 2 and 2 equals 7. Does 2 and 2 equal 7? Only if you're a corrupt person placing 3 under the table, it becomes 7. But this is what some people have. They have psycho-emotional issues. So I remember I saw this documentary about this woman. She's a world-famous psychologist. And this woman, she specializes in hidden memories. You know, somebody will go to therapy, and through the therapy, the notion or idea will come to their mind that they were abused when they were young. Okay? She's developed methods to see, is this right or not right? Now this woman, she said when she was young, her mother drowned. Her mother drowned. Which is a sad thing. Her mother drowned. And she said, you know, when my mom drowned, I knew there wasn't a God. She blames the drowning of her mother on who? God. And it's the same people, if they have £1 million, they never say, I got $1 million because of God. No. I got $1 million because of my hard work, my achievement, my money. But some people have psycho-emotional issues. Maybe disconnect with them and their parents. Maybe disconnect with them and their society. So they start to hate God. And so these are the 3 key types of atheists that we will find in our society. And this is important, brothers and sisters, for us to understand. Because, unfortunately, in our society, many of our young people are affected. How long do I have left? Can I continue? You guys, I know you guys are tired. Yeah? Beautiful. One group I want to talk about, brothers and sisters. We'll talk about these for 15-20 minutes. And then I will take any questions and answers. It's a series. I'm just, you know, when you make a dish, you fry some oil, some garlic, some onions, before you start putting the meat to make the sauce. Next week we're going to look systematically at their arguments. So when you're at school, college or work, and they say things to you, if there's a God, why is there evil in the world? Have you heard, who's heard that before? Look at that. If there's a God, many times, if there's a God, why is there suffering in the world? Am I right? They say that.
What is the answer?
Show it. We're going to smash all those questions. Yeah? We are going to give you the tools, inshallah, to smash those questions. When you go to work and they say, how can there be a God and people are starving in India? Or people are starving in Africa? We want to give you tools. So you're able to ask those questions. So they never bring up these type of doubts and shubahat in front of you ever again. But there's a group of people, my respected brothers and sisters, that we need to know about. And these are people called the new atheists. The what? New atheists. We've spoken about old atheism. They simply didn't believe in God. And 1 or 2 of them were maybe militant. The new atheists, my respected brothers and sisters, are militant. They believe in taking atheism to the people. And some of them are more evil than the others. The new atheists are represented by 4 individuals. The first of them is a man by the name of Sam Harris. Who's heard of Sam Harris here before? We need to wake up, brothers and sisters. Because things are happening, we're just oblivious. We are like that man sitting at the dinner table sleeping. And dinner is served, and while you are sleeping, the kids took your potatoes and your chicken. Then you wake up suddenly and say, where's my food? And the kids say, you ate it, Dad. Happy you ate it. Baba, you ate it. You ate the chicken, you ate the potatoes. You're like, huh? Alright, okay. And you slurp up the gravy with some bread, and you go back to sleep half empty or half full. That's us. Sam Harris is an American author. He has a number of best-selling books. He has a PhD in neuroscience. And of the 4 main new atheists, he is the one leading the challenge against Islam. He has a book with a man by the name of Majid Nawaz. Have you heard of Majid Nawaz? Who's Majid Nawaz? He's been accused by an American organization as being an Islamophobe. Don't say I said it or the masjid said it. They said it. The Southern Poor, what's it called? The Southern, I forgot it off my head anyhow, doesn't matter. They accuse him of being an Islamophobe, and he's now raising money to take them to court. Yes, he's raising money to take them to court. Imagine the world is the head of an organization called Quilliam, which is an anti-extremism. Well, I don't know how anti-extreme they are. They seem to be extremely lackadaisical when it comes to Islam. But imagine the world, as Sam Harris wrote a book. Sam Harris said, you won't, the Muslim world won't wake up tomorrow and apostate. Because he believes Islam is, and I'm going to give you some quotes, brothers and sisters. You need to hold on there. Those of you sitting on your feet, you need to sit down properly. Sam Harris believes that Islam is not even a religion, it's an ideology. And it's an evil ideology, especially the Quran. If he had his way, they'd ban the Quran in the West and in the East. So with Majid Nawaz, they wrote a book. Why? Because he recognizes, unfortunate for him, in his mind, that Muslims won't apostate, won't wake up to and say, alright, we leave Islam. You know, the whole of the Muslim world becomes atheist. So he believes there should be reform. And you've heard, who's heard this word before? Reform in the Muslim world or reform in Islam? Raise your hands. Who's heard it before? Have you noticed they never say reform to what? Okay, you want reform in the Muslim world. Reform to what? What do you want? Do you want us to follow America and to elect our own Muslim Donald Trump? Is that what you want? What do you want? Us to reform and have our own Joseph Stalin? Is that what you want? What do you want? And if you're going to offer us Muslims a model, can you show us where it is working? Where? We look at our society, one of the 10th richest nations in the world, we have widespread poverty. If the soup kitchens close, or the food bank closes down, significant portions of the population will have nothing to eat. What model do you want us to follow? What? Show us, tell us what. Who remembers in the 1960s? Muslims all became communist, socialist. It failed. In the 1970s, we all became capitalist. It failed. In the 1980s till to now, we realized, let's go back to Islam where we were successful. So what model do you want us to be? Some of us come from African countries, 4 years socialist, 4 years capitalist, 4 years mixed up, 4 years don't know. In comes a president or prime minister advocating a particular ideology, and it always seems the same as the guy before him, am I right? The only difference, the incoming president, he's hungry, got no money in Switzerland. So he spends the 4 years filling up the Swiss bank account under the name of socialism. And Conrad, look at this. Look at the country Angola. One of the richest countries in the world, with one of the poorest populations in the world. And the heads of Angola were freedom fighters. One of the richest women in the world, her father is the head of Angola. Look at that, richest woman in the world, where you have a country of starving people. Starving. So is that what you want us to do? Reform Islam to like that? They never ever tell you what. And so Sam Harris works to advocate atheism, and he's a very well-known writer, popular writer, and he has a podcast. Another one of the 4 of the most important new atheists is Professor Richard Dawkins. Richard Dawkins is a writer, he has a number of books. The most famous is a book called The God Delusion, where he tries to argue against the belief in God. show you the fallacy. They say to you, well, you shouldn't believe in religion, you should believe in science. Imagine if you believed in science 200 years ago. You would believe in Newton's physics, then it would disprove it, so you have to leave your religion. Isn't it? But I showed you, observation is one thing, and science is something else. Good example. How do you know your father is your father? How? It can't be because you look like your father or look like your mother. Have you not seen something called a doppelganger? Somebody looks just like you. You can travel around the world, you meet somebody and say, oh, that guy looks just like you. He just looks just like me. Is that somebody from your family? No. How do you know your grandfather is your grandfather? How? Your great-grandfather is your great-grandfather. How do you know? There's only one way you know. And that's through testimony. Somebody saying, yes, I'm your father. Shut up, fool. Yes, he's your grandfather. Am I right? That's your grandmother. Am I right? Testimony. Is testimony science? No. It's not. So, there's not only one type of truth. If science is truth. One day they say to you, eat lots of carrots is good for you. What do they say the next day? Don't eat carrots. Am I right? One day they say don't drink too much coffee, it gives you cancer. The next day they say to you, drink lots of coffee. It cures cancer. Am I right? You could go on the internet to check Google and he'll give you multiple different answers for the same thing. You'll find scientific studies done by scientists of high repute contradicting each other. Am I right? Talk to me, people. Am I right or wrong?
Right.
You have a science book, the GCSE science today. Next year they have to take bits of the book out because it no longer stands. Am I right or wrong? Look at the syllabus. Old syllabus, new syllabus. It changes. Why? Because science is not the truth. It is one way of understanding our reality, which may change because we get new knowledge. We have new knowledge. 1,000 years ago, people believed that the moon was made of cheese. But now we know the moon is not made of cheese. That was a rational way of looking at things. They looked at the moon, it had holes, cheese. It was rational. Was it the truth? No, not the truth. Our ancestors believed in magic. Does magic work? Yes, it works. Can science test magic? Can it? No. How do you test the supernatural? How? What does the test look like? We are now going to discover the jinn. What do? Make a cage the size of this road to try to capture the jinn? Isn't it? It's ridiculous. It's about natural phenomena, things we can see in the natural world. You observe them, you make theories based upon this observation. And so, Dr. Dawkins is one of those people who goes around in the world saying people should not believe in God, but believe in science. Another person was a man by the name of Christopher Hitchens, who died some years ago. And he was a well-known writer, British writer. During the last Iraq war, he supported George W. Bush in their fight against the Iraqi people when everybody around the world was against the war. The United Nations Kofi Annan said that it was illegal. Hitchens, surprise, surprise, supported. And surprise, surprise, he's an American citizen. Have you seen that picture of the man in India who worships Donald Trump? Have you seen it?
Yeah, I've seen it.
You haven't seen it? Dark Indian man worshipping Donald Trump. You haven't seen it? He takes him as a god. Logically it makes sense. If you could worship Shiva, Krishna, and other deities, in your mind Donald Trump is powerful, you might as well worship him. But one brother said, Subhanallah, That's a hard way to earn American visa though, isn't it? Ain't it? You can imagine that man at the American embassy in India, in Delhi or Mumbai. He walks up to the embassy and everybody knows him. And if you don't know him, he's got a picture of Donald Trump. He says, "This is my God." Can they refuse a visa to such an individual? Can't refuse a visa to such an individual. And so, Christopher Hitchens was a writer. We have, last of all, Daniel Dennett, who is a philosopher and a writer and a cognitive scientist who deals with the mind and the function of the mind. These four individuals advocate new atheism, a militant type of atheism where they talk about the science being the religion. For them, you don't believe in God, you believe in science. And at the center of this is the theory of evolution. The theory of evolution, which we'll talk about later. Sam Harris has a number of statements that he has made. Sam Harris is somebody who has the Muslim on the brain, forever talking against Islam and Muslims. I want to read to you, brothers and sisters, two things. Two things. Those of you not sitting down, please take a seat. Those of you whose bottoms are not on the floor, put your bottom on the floor. Because this quote is way out there. Sam Harris said, in the end of liberalism in the Los Angeles Times in the 18th of September 2006, he said, "The people who speak most sensibly about the threat that Islam poses to Europe are actually fascists." You know those people who say Heil Hitler, Sieg Heil? They're the ones who speak most sensibly about the threat of Islam to Europe. Look at that. By the way, Sam Harris is an Ashkenazi Jew. He's somebody from Europe whose ancestors, over 6 million of them were killed by who? Fascists like Hitler. Could you imagine a Jewish person ever saying a statement like that? Never. The same way I, as an African in diaspora, will never belittle someone's genocide. I never belittle the Jewish Holocaust or the American Holocaust, where millions of Native Americans were killed. Never belittle them. I'm a Holocaust survivor myself. Our ancestors, between 20 to 100 million, died on the trip to slavery in America and Europe. And many of our ancestors came from West Africa. What does that mean, brothers and sisters? What does that mean, coming from West Africa? Hand up. What does it mean? In religious terms. They're Muslim. Most of West Africa, Muslim or not Muslim? Muslim. Senegal? Muslim. Guinea, the 2 Guineas? Muslim. Nigeria, the vast majority is Muslim. Over 150 million Muslims in Nigeria. Don't believe the hype. Gambia, Muslim. Sahara, Muslim. Sudan, the majority, Muslim. Darfur, Muslim. Mali, Muslim. Tashad, Muslim. Have I missed anywhere out? Have I missed anywhere? Good geography? Alhamdulillah. The vast majority of West Africa for the best part of 1,000 years has been Muslim. Till today, and is growing, not decreasing. So if the slaves, which they were largely, came from West Africa and other parts of Africa, a vast number of them were Muslim. So the African slave trade, brothers and sisters, was an Islamic or a Muslim genocide. A genocide of Islam. 20 to 100 million Muslims disappeared in the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. It's something we've never heard. Who's heard of that before, the Islamic genocide? Raise your hands. Never heard of it before. But this is the reality. So, you will imagine somebody whose ancestors and possibly family suffered at the hands of fascists. But this is what he said. I want to read to you something, brothers and sisters. And this is the reality of this statement. In the Channel 4 television documentary, which was shot in Greece, Alexandrios Polymritrius, didn't pronounce his name properly, who ran for parliament in last year's election. So he's a man, as you know, in Greece today, they have fascists. There is a man who's a fascist, he's trying to become part of parliament. So he ran for parliament in last year's election, and he said he was calling to migrants. As you know, large numbers of migrants are coming from northern Africa, across the Mediterranean Sea, into Greece, into Spain, into Italy, fleeing from wars caused by the same countries that they're trying to be saved from. Fleeing from wars because their countries are unstable and there are mass killings. So, this man, he said to migrants living in Athens, he called it a miasma. Miasma, like a disease. He's calling these migrants like a disease. And he called them, and they are subhuman. Look at that. Whenever you want to kill human beings, what do? You say they're subhuman, like Hitler did. Hitler made Jews who are human beings, members of the human family, subhuman, not human. So when you kill them, it's like you're killing cockroaches. Who cries when they kill a cockroach? Nobody. Who cries when they kill mice? Nobody. Who cries when they kill ants? Nobody. So who will be crying when they kill migrants? Nobody. He called them a miasma and migrants. And he said, we are ready to open the other ovens. What does that mean?
Like Hitler.
Like Hitler did. They used large matrix ovens to kill the Jews. It was too expensive to use bullets, so the wicked and evil Nazis, they used some chemicals to gas the Jews en masse. Look at that. We thought this evil ideology was over with the Second World War. It's alive. So migrants leaving Western Northern Africa, coming into Greece, he called it a miasma, like a disease, subhuman, and one of the things they're ready to do, as he says, we are ready to open the ovens. We will turn them into soap. Those brothers and sisters you see come from West and North Africa, turn them into soap. He's alluding to Hitler. The Nazis are accused because fat ran out. They started to use human fat to make soap. You use lye or acid with fat, it makes a sludge which is soap. In one of the concentration camps, the governor of the concentration camp, his wife, they made soap from the Jews. They used the skin of the Jews, and the artifacts are there to see, to make lamps. They took clothing from the Jews. The teeth, you know you have gold toothing? They took the gold from the teeth, the gold and silver from teeth, so they can melt it down. They took hair, despite all the other evil, barbaric things they did with Jews. So this man is saying, that's what we'll do. We'll open the ovens and we'll make those migrants into soap. To wash cars and pavements. So what will they do with this soap they'll make from the humans? They wash cars with it and wash the pavements with it. We'll make lamps from their skin. like this woman in the concentration camp did. They will take our brothers and sisters as migrants, kill them on your back, their backs, cut the square of their backs, take the skin off, and make lamps from it. Just like the Nazis did. Who here in this masjid thinks that this is acceptable? Raise your hands. Who here in this masjid thinks this is unacceptable? Raise your hands. I'm sure I speak for every Muslim here. If this statement was made about Jews, none of us would accept it. If this statement here was made about Sikhs or Hindus, none of us would accept it. If this statement was made about any human being, none of us would accept it. But this is what the fascists are saying. And here we have a neuroscientist like Sam Harris saying, the people who speak best about how to deal with Islam in Europe are the fascists. So this shows you, brothers and sisters, where Sam Harris lies. Sam Harris also said another quote, and this will be my last quote. In the same article he said, indeed, it is telling that the people who speak with the greatest moral clarity about the current wars in the Middle East are members of the Christian right, whose infatuation with biblical prophecy is as troubling as the ideology of our enemies. So those people who speak about the wars in the Middle East, why do evangelical Christians support the state of Israel? Anybody here know why? Is it because of the Bible?
No.
Even if they believe the Bible, many of their leaders are hypocrites.
Just because they are similar of Hebrew Muslims.
No.
No.
Sorry? Money and power is behind. Yeah, if you speak for Israel, you make money without doubt in America. But there is another reason.
They'll bring the day of judgment.
Excellent. The Christian right who misread the Bible, they believe that part of the prophecy of Jesus coming back is by all of the Jews congregating in Israel, in Palestine. So they support and they help all the Jews coming to Palestine. Why? Not because they love Jews. Stay with me. Stay with me. Not because they love Jews. They don't love Jews. These same Christian... Did you hear about the woman, the judge for the Supreme Council, what she said about African Americans and slavery? These are the same hypocrites who don't like black people. The same hypocrites in the 1960s told African Americans to be at the back of the church and outside the church. This is what they believe. These are the same people who live in mansions and drive around in fast cars and have multiple cars, just like rappers like Lil Wayne and Birdman. You know Birdman? The manager of Lil Wayne of Cash Money, the record company, has like 20 cars. Mansion the size of this whole building. Has like 20 cars, a Bugatti, a Ferrari, all the latest cars. Then wakes up one morning, I don't like this car, buys a brand new Porsche. They walk to the Porsche showroom, buy a 2018 Porsche, cash. They buy the Bugatti, cash. And they get it to be customized as well. That's what these priests, these so-called people of religion have. But they believe by making all the Jews go into Palestine, into Israel, that this will trigger the day of judgment. So Jesus will come back. What will Jesus do when he comes back to the Jews? They believe. What do they believe? Anybody? Nobody? Excellent. Those who don't accept him, he'll body them. That's what they believe. Very liberal people, aren't they? So it's not out of love of the Jews they do this. So when the American embassy was moved from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, they had a Christian preacher, a man of God. I think you should say the word the other way round. A man of God who spoke, who believes that by Jews coming to Palestine, to Israel, will trigger the coming of Jesus, who will actually be the false Messiah, and those Jews who don't accept Jesus will all be bodied. Look at it. What kind of doctrine is that they have? And this is who Sam Harris, an atheist, believes speaks with clarity about the Middle East. We saw what happened in the news, what happened to Jerusalem. Where people, imagine now you're sitting in your flat, you bought your flat for £100,000. And your next door neighbour comes in, kicks you out, throws all your stuff over in the garden, moves in, changes the lock, closes the door. Is that justice? Imagine that happened to you. So for a political, religious agenda based upon falsehood, they believe in the evil transgressions of people. And we know our sister who was a nurse was shot. Look at this. Nobody. You shoot babies, you shoot women, you shoot the elderly. Who don't you shoot? Oh, I know who you don't shoot, the dead. Yeah? This is what happened. It was triggered off in Palestine because of this false ideology. But here's an atheist who says that these are the people who speak about clarity. How can somebody who believes in instigating wars to bring back Jesus speak about clarity on anything? We Muslims believe in Isa coming back, Jesus coming back. Do you see us instigating anything to bring Jesus to come back? Do you see Muslims, we believe, okay, Jesus is coming in Syria, let's start world wars. So you know, Jesus coming in Syria, and the Jews have to be in Syria, say for example, as a prophecy. So let's instigate wars and force every Jew to go to Syria so Jesus could come back. Do you think Muslims would do such a thing? Never. We believe he's coming back when Allah decrees for him to come back. We can't, quote unquote, force the hand of God. But these are the type of people an atheist Sam Harris believes speaks with clarity about what is happening. I've got lots of quotes about Sam Harris. What I'd like to do today, inshallah ta'ala, is to stop there. You brothers and sisters have been very gracious. I've been going for what? Hour and a half or more? Yeah? And what I'd like to do, inshallah ta'ala, next week is to look at systematically some of their arguments. I need everybody to bring pen and paper. Okay? Is that clear, people? Because systematically I'm going to go through it. Allah bless me to do the training. I'm going to train you guys. When you go to school and Tracy says, "Ain't no God, my pet rabbit died last night," you'll know how to deal with that. Okay? I know I said a lot, and I, as usual, go left and right and come back again. Yes? Are there any questions or clarifications? Should I talk about the thing that I'm involved in, or it's okay? Okay, brothers and sisters, with that being said, no questions, clarifications. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.